Hi everyone, it's Chef Rose here. Today is French macaron day. I'm so bummed because I really wanted to be there to teach you all of this, and hopefully at some point in one of my other classes I can teach you all about the French macarons. But today I'm going to do the recipe from your book, Parisian macarons. I believe it's on page 499. Um, so we'll do it someday together. So you can see I've got all my prep here. It's really pretty easy. It's really four ingredients. And in this bowl, I have 125 grams of almond flour. And here's the bag I got from Target. It's called Simply Balanced. It's a 16-ounce bag. I believe it was $9, so not a bad price at all. And in that bowl with the almond flour is 200 grams of powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar. I've got my piping bag ready, number 804 tip, a plain hole tip. And of course, the tip size is going to depend on the overall size of the macarons that you want to make in the first place. And of course, I've got this nice large cup to replace the cones we have at school. So I have a couple sheet pans with parchment. I'm going to fill the macarons with a chocolate ganache. So I have the prep there for the ganache. I have 6 ounces of heavy cream and 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. So instead of doing equal parts, I'm doing a little more cream just to make it a little softer ganache for the cookie. I have my egg whites. These are aged or old egg whites, about 4 days old. That I separated them, then sit in the refrigerator. Then I took them out to sit at room temperature. And then I have about 40 grams of sugar. And the egg whites is 100 grams. So I'm going to go ahead and start. This mixing method is the French or common meringue method. And so let's go ahead and put the egg whites in the bowl and start them. So remember, you never want to start the egg whites on a high speed, lower speed. Remember, we don't add the sugar until it gets foamy. So we're going to kind of let that go. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and start warming up the heavy cream. So remember, ganache is pretty simple. It's cream and chocolate. We don't want to boil the cream. We just want to get it hot. If you boil the cream, actually your ganache may curdle or separate. So very important to just get it hot enough to melt the chocolate. All right. Get this out of the way. All right. And now next thing you want to do is real important to process the powdered sugar and the almond meal together in a food processor. I've got my little tripod here, so I'm going to put that down. Now in the book, they mention processing the two together for 5 minutes. Well, I've never done that long. That seems kind of extreme. You'll see, I do it for just about a minute. And this is going to get any lumps out, really combine the two really well. Okay, I start with a pulse, just to kind of really get it blend, really mixed well. It's also important to have the almond meal at room temperature. I do mention in my lecture notes about keeping the almond meal in the freezer for long-term storage. So if you have some in the freezer, make sure it's at room temp before you make the macarons. The same with the egg whites. So see, I'm just pulsing, just making sure it's well mixed. You can always take the lid off, scrape down just to make sure everything's getting blended. 5 minutes, I think, is a little extreme. All right, looks great. So I'm going to transfer this now to a much larger bowl. Follow me. All right, place it in a larger bowl. Make sure you get it all in. Perfect. All right. I'm going to check the egg whites. Let's take a look. Still a little bit of liquid whites in the center. I want to remember we add the sugar at a higher speed and gradually, and once we get a nice foam going. Remember, if you add the sugar too early and just dump it in, it's going to collapse all that air that you're beating into those egg whites. All right, going to check the cream. Right, cream's looking good. You can usually tell when it's starting to come to a scald. You'll see that you'll start to see little bubbles around the side, but not quite yet. Let's give it a little bit more time. Check our egg whites there. Remember, you can turn up the mixer a little bit at a time. Now I'm up to speed 4. You just never want to start on high speed. Because if you start on high speed, what will happen is you get a lot of foam at the top, but you'll have some liquid egg whites still at the bottom of the bowl, and I've seen that happen. Alright, so I'm looking at the heavy cream. Starting to see movement. That means it's starting to get hot. I see bubbles on the side. I've turned off the heat. Add the chocolate. This is a Calabo semi-sweet chocolate. So I will finish the macarons off camera as well as the ganache, and then there'll be part 2. We'll be looking at the finished macarons and filling them with the ganache. And if you read the book, they talked about how there's coconut macaroons and almond macaroons, but for this French, it's called a macaron. So if you ever go to Paris and you go to order some macarons in a bake shop, make sure you say it properly, or they might just kick you out. I don't think they would, but you know, those French people. So I'm just letting the heat of the pan melt the chocolate, and that's pretty much it. You don't really whisk it. I don't want to add a lot of air to it. So I'm just stirring it to melt. And so what I will do is, once this is all set, all the chocolate's melted, I will pour it into a bowl to cool at room temperature. All right, back to our egg whites. Oh, looking good. It's getting foamy, so I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Just about all the liquid whites are gone. Just a little bit more. I love this tripod I bought. It's going to make my demos so much easier now that I can use 2 hands. Yay. Like I said in my lecture notes, the French macarons are very, very finicky. Today's a good day though. It's not too humid in my kitchen. I'm going to have the oven set at 320. Once I pipe them, it's very important that they rest while piped until they kind of form a skin. And you can see it go from a shiny appearance to kind of a matte finish. Some days in the kitchen at school, if it's kind of humid, it's taken as long as 30 minutes. But sometimes you can wait as little as 15 before they go into the oven. All right, going to go ahead and turn it on high. and gradually add my sugar. It's not a lot of sugar. It's only 40 grams, but it's enough. Remember, you got the powdered sugar along with the almond flour, so that's where a lot of the sweetness will come from. We want to take this to a stiff peak. So we'll go over that again as to how to know when that's ready. Obviously, looking at it, you can see it's getting thicker. You see the whip leaving the lines in the meringue, which is a good indication. All right, let's check it. All right, remember what we did. If the whip stays up, that's a really good sign. Let's take a look. Remember, pull straight up, turn over, and a little soft. I'm just going to give it a little bit more by hand, or you could do it, put it back on. Doesn't need much more. Always back on high. All right. Let's check it now. Again, should sit straight up. Great. Pull straight up. Turn over. A little bit of a curl, but I'm going to go with it. I think we're okay. Okay. All right. Let me put everything out of the way. Take this off. Let's get this out of the way so you can see the folding. All right. Let's put it right here. All right. Good. All right. So you're going to do about a third of the almond meal, flour, powdered sugar mixture. And this is called the Macarons, if I'm saying it right. It's very French, of course. And how you fold it is really important too. So you're going to kind of cut in the dry. Take your spatula, almost act like a knife. Cut and then fold up. And you want to fold just about all of it in. Previously, a lot of times we'll say don't fold it all the way in, but this time you're going to do a pretty good job of getting it all folded in. All right, next addition. So 3 additions. Again, cut through, fold up, cut through, fold up, cut through, fold up, cut through, fold up, cut through, fold up. Good. Cut through, fold up. Now you see I didn't add any color to the meringue. Once you had whipped it, you could add some food coloring, but I didn't have any of the gel, so I'll just do natural. All natural. And remember, speaking of natural, make sure you buy an almond flour that uses blanched almonds. I once tried to make it with almonds that still had the skin on that were almond flour, but that skin did make a difference. Okay, and they did not work. So cut in, fold, cut in, fold up, cut in, fold. Now this is where you can see it's a pretty stiff mixture, but we want to actually kind of overmix and break it down. So I'm going to keep folding. I'm going to show you how you know when it's ready. And I do want you to make sure you look at that website. This one website has really great pictures and telling you troubleshooting what happens if your macarons don't come out correctly. So you can see how thick it is. Okay, I don't want it that thick. I want to kind of break down the egg whites. So I'm going to keep folding, cutting through and folding, cutting through and folding. So the way to know when it's mixed enough is you pull the spatula through and you want to see how quickly it fills in that path. Well, that's pretty good, actually. We're just about there. So you want to have it flow, and that's the key to getting that smooth top, is that flow. So let's look at it again. Pull all the batter together, pull the spatula through. Wow, comes back really nicely. Good, within two seconds, I'd say. And I think I told you about 2 to 5 seconds, and that's perfect. So you can see now that it's got more of a flow off the spatula than it did before. Okay, let's do it again. Beautiful. Okay, great. All right, so let's move it to the pastry bag. Let's set up for that so you can see. Okay. I'm gonna pour it. Don't do all of it, just about half. Okay. All right. Perfect. I love this little, this is actually the top of a smoothie, like a ninja. Comes in great, works perfectly. All right. All right, want to make sure you can see the piping. I'll go ahead and move. There we go. All right, so straight up and down with your pastry bag. Squeeze, stop, squeeze, stop. And it's okay if you get a little bit of a kiss at the top. It should, if you mixed it properly, it should smooth out. Now, what a lot of French pastry chefs talk about doing is staggering the cookies. So now I squeeze, squeeze, and it comes out pretty easily. So not a lot of squeezing. I kind of like to make them this size, not too big. You'll see pastry chefs who make them very small, and they use them for decoration on whole cakes. All right. So you can see, stagger them a little bit. You can use parchment, or you can use a silicone mat if you have one. But no need to buy a silicone mat just for this. Okay. And I got a little extra here. Get that off of there. All right. Squeeze, stop, squeeze, stop. Again, back straight up and down. You don't have to go around, just squeeze, stay in place. And there's your first pan. Okay, and I don't know if you can see it, but they're nice and shiny. So again, and I've seen on TV and shows where they'll, hit the tray against the table. There's no need for that. If it's mixed properly, and you rest it properly, you shouldn't need to beat the pan on the table to knock down any air. So I think this batter looks great. And that's an indication if they smooth out real nice, they look shiny. Now in class, I was going to teach you the other method of making macarons with Italian meringue method. But I want to do that in person. I don't want to do that on video. All right, because that one's a little trickier. But I find that the one with the Italian meringue is actually, I get better results almost all the time versus the French like this. Boy, one thing just slightly off and your results aren't always that great. So same thing. squeeze pipe, squeeze stop, squeeze stop. I do a little curly cue there. But again, when you look at them after you've piped them, that little curly cue goes away. It all kind of smooths out. Beautiful. Okay, stagger them. I guess apparently the airflow is better if you stagger them. And again, that's from a French pastry chef, so I will assume that they know what they're talking about. And so I've kind of got used to that. In fact, even our silicone templates that we were going to use, and you've seen them with the macaron in there, they're staggered as well. Put one on each end here. Good. Just about done. Beautiful. And there you go. There are your French macarons. I am now going to let them sit and form a skin anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, even longer if I need to. I will bake them in a 320 oven for approximately 12 to 15 minutes. And check the lecture notes for how to know when they are done in the oven. All right? I hope all is well with everyone, and stay tuned for part 2. Okay? Bye.